Hello and welcome to First, your first place for all F1 related news, content and general tomfoolery. I am joined as always by the lovely co-host, Ellie McVicker. How are we doing this week?
Hello. Yeah, no, we're all good. After
Good.
some troubleshooting issues, we're ready to go.
Yeah, as you can see, we are, for our visual viewers, we are recording in two separate rooms this week, and that's because of all the audio issues we had last week. We have decided to currently abandon recording in the same room. So we are literally sitting in opposite ends of the flat. Yeah, we're evolving. We're evolving. It's probably going to sound much crisper.
And hopefully look a bit better.
Yeah. So that's the housekeeping done. Also, we apologise for not dropping the filler episode, the Blast from the Past episode. We have actually got that all ready. So that will be coming out after our Monza review, which will be coming at some point next week after the Monza race. Now that that's all out of the way,
we're hoping to release the episode somewhere in a week's gap, which is that after Monza?
Yeah, after Monza. Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said. I swear.
I just didn't know that was a week's gap.
No, it's all right. You just don't believe me. It's okay.
Yeah.
So, we had this weekend the Dutch Grand Prix. Like last week, or last time we had a race viewers, which was Belgium, we have a little bit of a confession to make, which is that it wasn't Ellie this time that didn't get to see the whole race. It was actually me. I was working for an hour, which literally happened to be like 30 minutes into the race. So that was fab.
Yeah, but to be fair, I didn't get to watch a second of qualifying because I was working. So I am solely relying on the F1 qualifying highlights video to catch me up. And I really hope they didn't leave out anything interesting because I was the one that made the script for this episode.
Yeah,
so if we're missing something, please do cut in.
Write us in the comments. Write in the comments and tell us how shit we are at our jobs.
Yeah.
So, where shall we start this week? Probably with practice, I guess.
Yeah.
Obviously the biggest shock of the week. Ellie, I'll let you tell it. The tragedy of practice.
It's just a normal practice session. Raining, the usual.
The usual for every European race this year.
Yeah. And first of all, Oscar Piastri going around the circuit and slides himself into the wall nicely, And just after he did so, Daniel Ricciardo, the fellow Australian, decided that he would do the same, I guess. And in his words, he said that if he didn't hit the wall where he did, it was either that or go and hit Piastri.
Yeah.
So I think he made the right decision, but in doing so, he hurt himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Sorry, on you go.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. I've written that. Yeah, exactly. And so he was rushed off. He complained just after the crash that he'd hurt his hand. Originally he thought it was his wrist, and he was rushed off to hospital, given an X-ray, and he broke a bone in his hand. Which ruled him out for the rest of the week, the race weekend. Which unfortunately was after the end of obviously the second practice session, which gave whoever his replacement was to be only practice 3 to get ready for the car.
Yeah, and one would
Daniel
think
Ricciardo
that...
one would think that Daniel Ricciardo's he won't be back until after Monza. He's had surgery on his hand, and we wish him a very speedy recovery. Some marshals very nicely left him some waffles and left him a little note inside the car.
Just a quick little jump in. He actually went to the same doctor as Lance Stroll did at the start of the season.
No way.
He did.
I did not know that.
I have no idea if that's true. I found that out on Twitter.
Well, everything you read on Twitter is true.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything on Twitter is true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one would think that, as you were saying, that if there's only one practice session left, so one would think that they would try to get someone in that would know the car quite well.
Yeah,
And
have a lot of
funnily enough-
experience, you
Mhm.
know.
And funnily enough, there's this driver that knows the car extremely well. He
Is
actually,
there, Ellie? I didn't know this.
he actually drove it for half the season.
Did he?
But no, I must be lying because they
Did you
chose
remember his
Liam
name? 'Cause
Lawson.
Yeah. So instead of doing the obvious thing and putting Nick, apologizing to Nick DeVries profusely and putting him back in the car, they chose Liam Lawson instead.
Yeah.
Liam Lawson, obviously, fantastic driver, currently doing very well in Super Formula in Japan, and part of the Red Bull Academy program, obviously. However, he had never driven. He's not had a lot of experience behind the wheel of an F1 car. He's had a couple
This
of
was
test
his first
sessions
time
and
in
such.
Formula One.
Yep. Whereas Nick DeVries literally had done half the season already.
Yep.
So it's probably the correct decision. It was just, you can imagine, it just rubs salt in the wounds of Nick DeVries, who has already, spent literally, a half of a season in that car, to be told, actually, despite the fact that we could literally put you back in the car tomorrow, nah.
To be
You're
fair,
all right.
if I was the one that had to go to him and say, "Hey, buddy, do you remember when that thing happened? We're past that. We want you back in the car." I can't see that happening.
No, you're absolutely right. Can you imagine that conversation of whoever
No, I
they
can't.
could? It would have been great. Oh
Mhm,
man,
mhm. I could see
Yeah.
Toto Wolff in there. I could see him in there
Yeah.
advocating for his boy, but
yeah, with
Hey.
the stern total wolf face you've ever
Mhm.
seen.
yeah.
Great. That would have been so funny.
But
But
Liam
alas.
Lawson got his F1 debut, and
Yeah.
I'd say he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, he literally had one practice session to get in the car.
Yeah.
Deal with the fact that this car is made for Daniel Ricciardo and not him. And it was probably, did they do like have emergency seat fitting? Did he have to sit in
Yeah.
a car that was designed for? I don't know. I'm like, how much did they manage to get this car tailored to him before this happened?
Well, I have no idea, but he did whatever he was working with. He did a smashing job.
a smashing
I
job.
was, yeah.
Was that a mixture between mouthing and smashing?
No, I
What
was
was-
going
what
to
was
say
the other word?
smashing. I was going
Oh,
to say
okay.
smashing, and then I
But-
thought maybe I should say a different word, but then I had already started. So
You've already started, so you must be.
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on.
To qualifying. So, from my limited knowledge, I conducted a series of bullet points, and if you have anything to add, please do, because this is solely on an 8-minute video.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
did see the whole thing. Or did I see the whole thing? No. I did
no,
not.
you didn't. So we're kind of not good enough department. Funny story actually. Funny story. I didn't
Go
tell
on.
you this. While I was working, so I work in a shop that sometimes has an F1 merchandise, and there was a girl that came up to the cash register, and I served her, and she was buying a Ferrari t-shirt. And I said, "Oh, are you watching qualifying today?" She was like, "No, my mum's dragging me out to the shops and sorts." And I was like, "Well, I might be able to catch it, so I hope it's a good race, and I hope Ferrari do well." And I
Yeah.
think that might have jinxed Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, no, you did. I also
Yeah.
want to ask the question, which I'm going to ask. Did you manage to plug the podcast, or did you bottle it?
I definitely did not.
Right, so you bottled it. That's terrible.
I'm not
See,
that
this is why-
shameless.
This is why I'm on the marketing side of things.
Uh-huh.
on this
Yeah.
team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Anyway, let's actually talk about cars and things. Yeah, you're right. It was a cursed day for Ferrari.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
it
we
was
started.
the qualifying started obviously wet.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone was on inters. There was a weird thing of like Karun Chandok seemed to be trying to jinx the weather to make it dry. I don't know if he was planning on getting a hairdryer out and getting on the track, but he kept saying, "Oh, it'll be dry by the end of the session." I'm telling you now, it just didn't happen.
Well, we did have the weatherman there at the track, so maybe he knew something we didn't.
Yes, we did. We had
Steve
God.
Carell.
Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Also the voice of the great Gru. Was at his first ever F1 race weekend, and he was there, and obviously he played the weatherman and the anchorman. Great film. Watch it if you haven't seen it. But yes, Ferrari.
Yeah.
Doing
Well,
Ferrari things.
yeah, pretty much, because they were this close from Jed. If you can't see me, I'm doing a little tiny thing.
I can't, no, but I can imagine you. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I'll do it as well, and it's like
tiny. Tiny. Why am I saying tiny? I
have
don't
you
know
lost
why
your
I said
entire
tiny.
train of thought?
No, I
there?
knew I know what I'm saying. I just don't know why I said tiny. Small. I should have said small. We're this close from being out in Q1.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc almost didn't get into Q2.
Yeah. And it was purely what was it? It was down to it was kind of a mix of both. Interesting calls as to when to come in for a second set to set laps, and then it was a mix of Charles doing this thing where sometimes he just pushes a little bit too hard. But that wasn't the only shock elimination of qualifying.
You're so right.
As we had Lewis Hamilton end up out in Q2 after qualifying a solid 13th place. Just doing GOAT things. Sorry.
We did indeed. Yeah, that was mean, but he I think it was a combination between team calls and not being at the right time, but
it was
just
really
wasn't
odd because
there.
I don't know if I told you this when we were talking about it, but he did his push lap the second lap before the end, so obviously you want to try and do your fastest lap and your push lap, which is when you use all the battery of the car and everything on the last lap you're going to do. And for some odd reason, he seemed to do that lap, his push lap, the second lap before. So then he continued and did another lap as he crossed the line as time ran out for the session. But it was obviously not as good because he used all the battery. He didn't have any battery left. And obviously when you're using that on a wet track, you really want to be there at the last moment because the track's drying up. As F1 cars kind of work like reverse hoovers, blowing the water off the track. Funny sidetrack. The original the original idea of a hoover was actually to blow dust off, and then the man who saw this invention built the actual hoover that sucks dust. True story.
Oh, interesting.
There
Thank you
go.
for that.
Fun facts for Jet. We're going to continue that as a segment.
Well,
no, we won't.
Here's another fun fact. You ready?
Oh, God, here we go. Yep.
Williams got through to Q3.
They did. Both cars got through to Q3 for the first time since, oh, God, was it 2013?
Well, I'm not sure, but just before you get too excited.
2016? Yeah. Just before everyone gets too excited.
Logan Sargent puts it in the wall at the beginning of Q3. But he still qualified P10.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty darn good.
It was so funny, but also not, because David Croft, the commentator for Sky Sports, was literally saying, how good a job Logan Sargent's done to get this car to oh, that's Logan Sargent and he's in the wall. I was like, how did you even manage that? It was incredible timing.
Oh, the good old commentator's curse.
top 10 commentators' curse moments of the season so far.
Yeah.
Poor Logan Sargent. Didn't even really get that much. He didn't even get that much of a chance in Q3 because he put it in the wall.
Who knows what it could have been, but still solid for the Williams team.
Yeah. Speaking of putting it in a wall.
Oh, yes. Lovely segment. It's lovely segmentation
nice
there
segue
for you.
Yeah.
Segue, that's the word I was looking for. Not segment, segue.
Yeah. Like
Charles
the thing
Leclerc.
that you ride on.
Well done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc lost it into the wall.
Yep. He sure did.
So lovely.
Again,
just
it was
Ferrari
kind of
doing
almost,
Ferrari things.
I don't know. It was Charles just has. If he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at the moment. And it seems like no matter what he does, it just can't go well for him.
Nope.
In contrast, obviously Sargent went into the wall, but Albon ended up qualifying P4, which was an unbelievable effort for a Williams. Williams obviously being an absolute back runner. Yeah, from the last, so many years. And to see them back in P4, it reminded me of the good old was it Hungary 2015 or 2014 when it was Toto Wolff says it's one of his proudest moments because it was Mercedes 1-2 and then Williams 3-4.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it reminded me of those old days.
Yeah.
Only if Mercedes could actually get a 1-2.
Alex Albon is putting that car in places that it does not belong. And I think it just really goes to show that he deserves another chance at a top team. He was not given enough time to adjust, especially in a team like Red Bull, where I think the pressure is so high that you're not allowed to make any mistakes. So I think it just shows that he needs to he just needs another goal basically.
Yeah, the thing is as well is just that car is so suited to Verstappen every single year that we see no matter which teammate he has, they struggle.
Of course,
it can't be a coincidence.
I don't think so.
It's not like they just struggle in comparison to Verstappen. Don't get me wrong, Verstappen's a very good driver, but they struggle in comparison to actually being able to, do what that car should just be capable of doing with, anyone in the car. But it's funny you saying that Albon putting the car in places he shouldn't have, because that's exactly what Sargent did.
Yeah, but not quite in the same way.
Yeah. Moving on.
On to the race.
The race.
Let me set the scene for you. You ready?
Please,
let me set the scene.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
The track is completely dry. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a cloud in the sky. Or let's say there's not.
Is this a poem as well? Is this is this rhymes as well? Wow.
There's not a cloud in the sky. Everything seems like it's going to be a normal race. The teams are on slick tires, ready to go, ready to get a good stint out of them. Not a chance of rain. But not even halfway into the lap, we get raindrops. And that's when the chaos begins. There you go. What do you think of that?
Oh my god, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
That was amazing
for you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was great. Yeah. So we start off the race. There's a chance of rain. The race starts halfway around the lap. It starts to pour down. It was so funny because it seemed to pour it down in one section of the track in particular. So they all arrived there. It was a bit like a water slide. And then they got to other sections of the track and it was all right.
But surprisingly, nobody binned it.
No, it was. I could not believe it. This was the part I did get to see with Ellie, and I just sat there going, "How has nobody crashed yet?" It was incredible driving by everyone. To be honest,
yeah.
It was quite.
There was actually crashes when you'd expect there not to be.
Yeah.
But hey, that's what the unpredictability of the sport is.
Yeah, and someone who really made up places from that rain at the start, and he's a man of being able to deal with unpredictable conditions. Is Fernando Alonso, who made it all the way up to P3.
From P5.
From P5, all the way up. He had 2 paces, but the cars he was overtaking, and it was nice overtakes as well. It was pretty decent.
Nice double overtake. He took the inside line into corner 3 and got right past them. Lovely.
Yeah, it was great. That was beautiful. Fernando Alonso still proving that he still has what it takes, even if the car doesn't
keep up with the young guys.
Yeah. Rookie of the year, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, of course.
Well, we now have, and on that point, we now actually, because of Liam Lawson being on the track, we had 2 drivers this weekend who raced alongside Fernando Alonso who weren't born when he made his race debut.
Yeah, that is insane.
That is.
I was not born either.
No, you weren't.
Were you? You were not born.
It was 2001, so yeah, I wouldn't have been born either. Yeah.
No, so yeah, good old Fernando Alonso's racing career has went longer than I have been alive.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to think about.
So, as we were talking about Albon earlier, he actually manages to keep up with Sainz in the Ferrari. Sainz goes to overtake him, but Albon's right back at him, fighting for that position, and it's really impressive to watch a Williams and a Ferrari fight again.
It was funny because it was like, I think everyone kind of just expected Albon to move out of the way because everyone knew his position, but he just decided that actually, because it's a little bit wet, he wasn't having it.
Yeah.
But then we had the weird moment of people continuing to stay out on a completely wet track because the rain wouldn't last that long. Now, I am no strategist by any stretch of the imagination. Right? I've played one race of F1 Manager, and I
didn't go very well.
It didn't go very well, but however, if I saw that the track was that wet and saw other cars pitting onto inters and doing quite fast laps, I would sit there and go, maybe we should also pit onto the inters to do those fast laps, regardless of whether it's going to stop raining, because now our cars are driving 10 seconds a lap slower around the track. But apparently this logic failed to cross the ears of the Mercedes pit wall.
Because apparently, when it starts chucking it down with rain, you think to yourself, yes, my slicks can outlast this rain. But I think what they failed to recognise was that the track still had to dry after it stopped raining.
Yeah,
and by the time it dries, they're going to be so out of position. It doesn't actually matter that they've saved themselves a pit stop because they've just lost the time anyway.
Yeah, because there was we'll save 2 pit stops, one onto the inters and one back onto the dry tires if we don't pit. So that's 45, 50 seconds. I was like, okay, you're losing 10 seconds a lap. However, it's gonna take 5 laps for that to be non-existent, and that's exactly what happened. The only one who they all eventually very reluctantly went onto inters. The only one who didn't was Alex Albon, who was the only one not to pit the entire duration of that wet rain.
Well, and the fact he kept it on the track, rain.
Yeah, first stint of rain, and the fact he kept it on the track was pretty incredible. It did leave him in a sticky situation, however, whereby we go back to the beautiful FIA rules, where because Alex Albon hadn't ran a wet or intermediate tyre, he was forced to use 2 compounds of tyre during the race. So there's soft, medium, and hard. Whereas all the other runners could use any tyre they liked because they'd ran the intermediate tyres.
Yeah. So, advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really matter in the end because obviously, as we'll talk about later, it rained
again.
There
was more chaos. However, one person that really did benefit from the early rain and decided to pit stop immediately was Sergio Perez. He
Yep.
was one of the first person in the pits when it started raining. I think he put it on the second or third lap. I can't remember.
It was really, really early.
Yeah,
'cause
he was the first one to
yeah.
put on inters. And he got followed in by a couple more people. And Perez ends up, at a couple of laps, jumping about 7 people or something to go into P1 in front of Verstappen.
Yeah, Perez, Gasly, and Zhou all pitted.
And so did Leclerc.
And yes.
Yes.
However, if you've been listening to this podcast for a little minute, or you're an F1 fan of any sense whatsoever, you'll realise that when Ferrari try to do anything, they usually don't do it very well.
They end up sort of making it the wrong decision when it was the right decision.
Yeah. So, Leclerc comes into pit. Ellie, could you tell me one thing you need for a pit stop?
Well, usually tyres are quite helpful.
Yeah.
You know?
I've heard you need 4 of them to go like on the side of the car.
Yeah.
And they're what
usually
like sticks the car to the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, like usually 3 doesn't cut it. I think you kind of need 4.
Well, what Ferrari decided to do was go for the 0 tyre strategy, whereby they took the tyres off and went, hang on, we don't have any intermediates. Yeah. So Leclerc's beautiful idea of, replicating what Perez did completely crumbled within the first 5 seconds as he lost about 15 seconds stationary time in that pit stop.
To be fair, I'm actually just
Ferrari.
quite surprised. I'm actually just quite surprised that they didn't decide to put them back on. You know?
Yeah.
It seems like a Ferrari
put them back
move.
on and just go, we can't find the inters. Sorry, Charles. Just go back out on the ones you've got.
Yeah. But
you'll be fine.
But while Leclerc was having an awful day, as he usually does on race days, Perez was flying. And it turned out that inters was indeed the correct choice. Because I think once Verstappen got through the crowd of people a couple laps later, when he got into P2, he was 10 seconds behind Perez. So Perez was miles ahead after being so many places behind. And not only was the inters the right choice, but Perez just made them absolutely fly during the little time that he had. But Perez's time at the front did not last very well. Well, not last very long, I should say, was because when the track started to dry and everybody thought about starting to pit for inters, Red Bull decided to pit Max first, the car in P2. So, which basically compromised Perez's race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I meant that, well, just fully expand. He came in, Max Verstappen came in first, and obviously there was such a difference at this point and such an advantage to being back on the dry tyre that by the time that Perez got around the next lap and did his pit stop, he was behind Max because there was...
but easy, yeah.
Yeah,
and I think there was actually a team radio message came up and he said, has Max undercut me? And he had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, and apparently Max didn't make the call either. So it was...
I just think it was a bit dirty of Red Bull.
It's unbelievably unfair. I mean, you've got, Max Verstappen is so far ahead in this World Championship.
Oh, yeah.
And
like, there wasn't really any need for
Perez, it. Yeah, and if Sergio Perez wanted any chance of catching him again, you pit him first. And
it's like
every time it goes to the driver who is in the lead of the 2 drivers, you always give them preferential treatment because they're the one that's managed to get, further up the grid. But for some reason, Red Bull just decided that this rule doesn't apply because it's Max Verstappen. It was really sad, actually, and it was like, here we go again.
It's almost like Perez's side of the garage is like not really Perez's team. Like, Perez will have a team of engineers that like solely look at his race, and it's like they don't exist. It's like he's just known to come second to Max, you know? And I'd get there'd be more of like a discussion if the two of them were very equal in the championship. But like, Max is so miles ahead that I don't think it was really necessary. And you know what? The chances of Max catching him anyway, like, it was going to happen, especially with so many laps left. So I just didn't really see the point in like making the undercut if Perez was the leading driver, you know? It didn't really make sense to me.
It was really sad, to be honest. It was like, oh, here we go, you know? It's I think for Perez, he'll have been really disappointed in that. And they might claim it was a mistake, but it clearly wasn't. And yeah, that's that.
But I guess it's nothing that he's not used to.
Yes, exactly. Moving on.
Logan Sargent hits
Back
the
in
wall.
the headlines again. Yes, just in case Logan Sargent hitting the wall the first time round in qualifying didn't quite tickle your American pickle. That's a horrible phrase.
Yeah.
Just in case that no, I'm not saying it again.
No.
He did it again in the race, and was out of the race.
The first car to be out of the race.
First car to crash. The first car to be out of the race. Logan Sargent. And the weirdest bit about all this, I don't know if it was just because he was, you know, a bit emotional and he was a bit upset with himself. He sat on the grass by the side of the racetrack, I think, until maybe the end of the race.
I don't think it was the end of the race. There's no way. It started pouring down.
Long. It was so long. He was sat there, and the camera just kept coming back to him, and he just wasn't moving. Because most of the time, you crash, you walk around, or you get a trip back on the back of a scooter back to the paddock. Logan Sargent sat there, with his helmet still on, just very upset with the world, I think.
Yeah, we did get a very sad shot of him sitting alone in the grass.
It was so sad. It was like, surely someone can give him a lift back, you know? It's not like, you can call an Uber, you know? Surely. Yeah, so justice for Logan Sargent. Get that man an Uber.
Just as you thought it was getting boring, I'd actually fallen asleep for
just before you say this, for our listeners and viewers, right? I said to Ellie, I'm gonna have to leave now. I'll be able to watch it on my phone up until 1:45. After that, I need you to give me race updates because I'll be interested to see what's going on. I'll have my phone with me. I'll just She went, yeah, sure.
And
Ellie instantly falls asleep.
No, that's not true. I fell asleep for about 10 laps, and then I think I hear some excitement happening. I'm like, oh, what's happening now?
I better wake up. I better watch the sport.
Yeah. You know what? It's the sound of race cars. They just send me right to sleep.
Ellie actually watches Jarno Altmeer, who's an F1 YouTuber, play F1 Manager, fall asleep. Because
I don't last 5 minutes, man.
No, genuinely, I will be there, and I've watched the same F1 Manager videos several times. Because Ellie falls asleep.
Yeah. I'm just really absorbing it, you know.
Yes. So after you woke up, Ellie, what happens?
The rain starts again.
Oh, not more rain, you say?
Yeah. And not only does it rain, it starts pouring down. Absolutely pouring down. So much so that once everyone's pitted for inters, all goes smoothly, everyone decides, yep, this is heavy, let's pit. Apart from Esteban Ocon, who actually goes for the wet tyres. But everyone's on inters, apart from him. And they're going round. And Perez has a little slide off the track. And we're thinking, oh, that was very close. And then not even a couple seconds later, Zhou decides to follow his tracks. But instead of just a little slide, he slams right into the wall.
You know that video that's going around on Twitter and TikTok at the moment of the policeman going down the water slide?
Oh, gosh.
The slide. That's very much what like Zhou was it just
Yeah.
completely out of control. Just bang. Yeah. I don't know if
But yeah.
anyone's made that. Yeah, and yeah, that's all I had to add to that.
It actually brought out a red flag that I don't right. So basically, this is what I think. Maybe this isn't controversial at all. I just thought it was a bit strange, and I don't really understand this rule. So basically, just before the red flag had been brought out, the virtual safety car had been brought out first. So Perez and the Red Bull team decided that this would be the great moment to pit. Because I think it was getting too wet, and I think they tried to pit for wets. So as Perez is coming out of the pit lane, just pitted, the red flag is shown. So what happens is Perez, I think he gets down to like P6 or something, and everyone goes back into the pit lane just to wait for the barrier to get fixed. And just as we're waiting for the session to resume, it says that the Perez has been put back up to P3. So they used like an older session info to decide what the order was, but I'm not entirely sure why.
Yeah, so usually that's used if there's been a crash after a restart and they haven't completed a full lap yet, so they revert the grid back to what it was before the restart. However, I don't know why that had to happen, because
if someone knows,
nobody apart from Perez had lost out. Please comment down below.
If you know the reason to this, please let us know, because I just really don't understand why that was necessary. Like,
yeah, I've had a look.
It was just the luck of the draw, you know.
It just seemed, I don't know, I had a look, but it didn't seem like there was any cemented reason online, as far as I could see, at least on Twitter and such. So I don't know why that happened. Very odd.
But I just thought it was a bit strange. The race restarts, and it is Max Verstappen, Alonso, Perez, and whoever's behind them, right?
Pierre Gasly, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, Pierre Gasly. And then it looks, as the restart goes, it was a rolling start, so the safety car had to go in before they could go off anywhere. And it looked like Sebastian Vettel?
Sebastian Vettel's back in this race. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Guys, sound the alarms.
What I meant to say was, from the restart, it looked like Fernando Alonso had some great pace with keeping up with Max Verstappen. It honestly looks like he could have like challenged for the lead, but then nothing happened. You know, just the usual.
The funniest thing he said about that was that he said, "I wasn't sure whether or not to overtake Verstappen, because I wasn't sure if I would leave this track with my legs or something along the lines of that."
Did he say that?
Yeah, he actually did say that, or like something like, I don't know if I'd still be walking.
What?
Yeah, he was joking, but I did think that was very funny.
But like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. No, because obviously Netherlands, home of Max Verstappen himself.
Oh no, is that what you mean? Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh god.
Oh, did you mean as in
I thought you meant
Max
that,
Verstappen
like,
would take him out?
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
That says more about you than it does about me, Ali.
Anyway.
Dutch Grand Prix, fun fact, is the only place you hear the national anthem twice. One at the start of the race, and the second time when Max Verstappen wins it.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, so race restarts.
Further down.
Fernando Alonso challenges for the lead. Further down the grid,
we've got Perez is announced to have a pit lane, speeding in the pit lane penalty, which I have no idea when that happened, because I don't know why it just didn't get announced. Maybe it did get announced. Maybe I missed it. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I can tell you what happened and why he got it.
Okay.
He on that way in before the red flag.
Yeah.
He hit the wall of the side of the pit lane.
Okay.
And then locked his fronts and basically slid down the road and I went past the point of where you have to be at a certain
Slow
speed to go into the
down,
pit lane. So he actually smacked straight into the wall, just because the pit lane was so much wetter than the rest of the track.
Well,
so that's how
that's
that's how it
unfortunate.
happened. But
That's
yeah, there
very
you go.
unfortunate. So, with Perez's penalty, Pierre Gasly was in the running for P3.
Yeah.
And well, that's his first podium since 2020, 2022, 2021.
Did he
remember.
get a podium last year? I don't know. I
can't
think
remember.
I think it must be 2021.
But yeah, so Pierre Gasly made sure to just keep it within that 5 seconds of Perez, which he managed to do. No spoilers, but you know.
I think we can spoil the race on an F1 podcast. I think that's all right.
Yep. Well, there's your spoiler. Pierre Gasly finished P3.
Yeah, Pierre Gasly finished P3. Excellent podium for the Alpine team. Their second of the year, despite having one of the worst years in their existence.
Oh my god!
After Fernando Alonso left, Piastri didn't want the race for them. Their technical director left, and their sporting director left. There's not many people. There wasn't many people at the podium celebration to actually cheer on Pierre Gasly because most of them are currently down at the job centre or just unemployed. Yeah.
But our final note for the race was Russell. Russell had a little tangle with Norris, just a little racing incident, and ended up in P17 because he got a puncture. So after pitting, he managed to just bring it home, finish dead last, that is, because we had 3 cars retire. 3?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't just retire him when he came into the pit lane, as if he was going to do something in the last 2 laps of the race. It was very odd.
But maybe he just wanted to bring it home, you know.
Maybe there was a point if there was a red flag, then he may have made up a couple of places on a restart or something. I don't know. And that was the Dutch Grand Prix, and because of all that, Max Verstappen now got his 9th consecutive race win, equaling the record of Sebastian Vettel held in 2013. When he wins Monza, he will hold the all-time outright consecutive win record. Nobody's ever managed to 10 wins in a row.
I'm so excited for that.
I'm ready for the Dutch national anthem to be played again. I'm sure the Tifosi and the Italian fans will really enjoy Red Bull and Dutch Max Verstappen breaking the record of their once loved hero Sebastian Vettel on their home turf. But that is
lovely
all for
note
next
to end
week.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that is everything we have for this short. Actually, I don't think it is very short, but this is everything we have for this episode.
Yeah,
we've been recording for 52 minutes.
I know, it's crazy. But yeah, we'll catch you at the Grand Prix next week, which is Monza. Remember to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter,
anything
and
you can think of, really.
YouTube channel as well. We might at some point get around to posting other content up there as well as the regular podcast episodes. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys, and listening. Obviously, keep giving us 5 stars, keep giving in those ratings, and we will see you next time for our Monza race recap.
Bye.
Bye.